Have you ever noticed how someone can speak flawless English, perfect grammar, polished accent, every rule obeyed, and yet nothing stirs inside you? The words arrive on time, they are technically correct, but they leave no echo. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine hearing English spoken with small pauses, gentle imperfections, even a slight accent, and suddenly your chest tightens. Your eyes burn, you feel seen, you feel remembered. What if the power of language was never about sounding right, but about sounding real? That question began to quietly unsettle Eleanor Brooks, a 62-year-old English instructor from Edmonton, Alberta. For more than 40 years, Eleanor had lived inside sentences. She taught clauses, stress patterns, academic tone. She corrected essays with red ink and measured progress through rubrics and scores. Her classroom ran like clockwork, orderly, efficient, emotionally distant. She believed that was professionalism, until one winter morning changed everything. Outside, snow pressed softly against the classroom windows, muting the city into silence. Inside, final presentations were underway. Eleanor sat at her desk, pen poised, already predicting the outcome. Most students would speak stiffly. Eyes down, voices rehearsed. Safe, forgettable. Then Maria Santos stood up. Maria was a recent immigrant caregiver from the Philippines. Quiet, polite, the kind of student teachers often underestimated. Eleanor expected nervous pacing, maybe a rushed delivery. Instead, Maria took a breath and began to speak. Her English was simple. No fancy metaphors, no academic jargon, but her voice carried something Eleanor couldn't name at first. A gentle rhythm, like a song remembered from childhood. Maria spoke about her Lola back home, how her grandmother used to wake before sunrise, light a candle, and whisper prayers for each grandchild by name. How those prayers sounded like hope even when money was short and storms were loud. As Maria spoke, the room changed. Phones lowered, pens stopped tapping. A stillness settled, not the awkward kind, but the kind that listens. When Maria finished, no one clapped right away. Someone wiped their eyes. Eleanor felt her throat tighten. Something inside her, something long buried beneath years of professionalism, shifted. That evening, Eleanor opened an old notebook she hadn't used in years and wrote one sentence. It wasn't the English that moved me. It was the heart living inside it. The realization disturbed her, because if that was true, what had she been teaching all these years? Days passed. The feeling didn't fade. Eleanor found herself replaying Maria's voice while washing dishes, while grading papers, while lying awake at night. There had been no perfect accent, no advanced vocabulary. Yet it lingered longer than any textbook example she'd ever heard. Curiosity crept in. Late one night, she searched online. Why do Filipinos speak English with so much emotion? What she found surprised her. Forums. Testimonials, video clips. Thousands of Canadians, retirees, professionals, parents, quietly taking online English lessons from teachers in the Philippines. Not from Oxford, not from New York, but from Cebu. Bacolod General Santos. Eleanor scoffed at first. Why would Canadians learn English from Filipinos? She muttered. Then she clicked a video. A Filipino teacher smiled warmly at her screen. She greeted each student by name, asked about their families, laughed easily. At the end of class, she said, "Before we go, let's be thankful for something today." The students smiled back. They weren't just practicing pronunciation, they were connecting. One comment beneath the video froze Eleanor in place. My teacher didn't just teach me grammar. She taught me gentleness. Gentleness. Eleanor hadn't heard that word used to describe English education in decades. The following week, under the name LEB, she enrolled in a class. She told herself it was research. But deep down, she was searching for something she'd lost. Her teacher was a woman named Teacher Nena from Dumaguete. Small frame, bright eyes, a laugh that arrived before her sentences finished forming. Instead of starting with rules, Nena smiled and said, "Let's begin with something easy. Tell me one thing that made you grateful today." Eleanor froze. No one had ever asked her that in an English class. She stumbled. The weather's improving?" Nena nodded warmly. "That's lovely. Now say it again, slowly, like you're offering it to someone." They repeated it together. Something in Eleanor's chest softened. Week by week, she looked forward to those sessions more than her own teaching hours. Nena corrected gently, encouraged constantly. She often ended class with, "English is not just about being clear, it's about being kind." One night, Eleanor asked, "How did you learn to teach like this?" Nana smiled. "My father was a church reader. He taught us that words carry spirit, so we choose them carefully." That answer stayed with Eleanor. For years, she had treated English like a machine, precise, neutral, mechanical. But here, it was treated like a bridge, a prayer, a human offering. Slowly, Eleanor's own classroom began to feel different. She interrupted less, she listened more. One day, a refugee student struggled to describe missing home. Instead of correcting his tense, Eleanor waited. He finished and whispered, "Thank you for letting me speak." That night, Eleanor joined an online group for Canadians learning English with Filipino teachers. The posts weren't about lessons. They were about relationships. "She remembered my birthday. He prays for my job interview. She listens like I matter." Eleanor noticed the same words repeated again and again. Patient, warm, encouraging, genuine. It felt as if an entire culture had turned teaching into an act of care. She researched deeper. The history of English in the Philippines. Centuries of hardship, faith woven into daily life. Language shaped not by dominance, but by survival, connection, and hope. The next class, Eleanor asked Nana, "Why do Filipinos teach English so differently?" Nana thought for a moment. "Because we learned English without losing ourselves. We don't try to sound like someone else. We speak like us with love." That night, Eleanor remembered Maria's presentation. It wasn't trying to impress. It was trying to be honest. And that was the difference. Months passed. Eleanor's teaching transformed. Grammar still mattered, but humanity came first. Essays became stories, vocabulary became voice. Her students noticed. "You sound different," one said. "I hope so," Eleanor replied. "I finally learned how to listen." Eventually, colleagues grew curious, some skeptical. Some intrigued, one tried a Filipino tutor, then another. Stories spread quietly. "She remembers my dog's name. She asks how I'm really doing." Small things, human things. Then one evening, Eleanor received an invitation. "Teacher Ellie, if you ever visit the Philippines, please come meet us." She laughed it off. She was older now, widowed, tired. But the thought wouldn't leave her. Weeks later, standing in Manila's airport, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Welcomed, strangers smiled. Helped, greeted her warmly. In Dumaguete, Nana waited, holding a handwritten sign. "Welcome, Teacher Ellie." They hugged like old friends. Over the next days, Eleanor saw classrooms with cracked walls and overflowing joy. Children clapping for courage, not perfection. Teachers celebrating effort, not accents. "This," Eleanor whispered, tears rising, "is what we forgot." Nana nodded. "We don't wait for perfection to show love." When Eleanor returned to Canada, she brought back no souvenirs, just a wooden plaque that read, "Teach with the Heart." She placed it on her desk. The next morning, she asked her students to write one thing they were grateful for. The room changed. Over time, her classroom became a place of safety. Students spoke freely, wrote honestly, failed bravely. Word spread, Eleanor was invited to speak at an education forum. She began with one question. "Have you ever been moved by broken English more than perfect English?" Hands rose. "Then you already understand the Filipino way," she said. "They don't teach language, they teach connection." Applause followed. Soon, partnerships formed. Canadian schools collaborating with Filipino educators. Programs centered on empathy, listening, and voice. A movement born not from policy, but from kindness. On her last day before retirement, Eleanor stood before her class and said, "For years I thought I taught English. But English taught me something greater, how to care." That evening, she messaged Nana, "You changed my life." Nana replied with a photo of her smiling students. "Language is love when shared." Eleanor smiled, because she finally understood. The world doesn't need more perfect speakers. It needs more human ones. And somewhere in a small classroom across the ocean, a Filipino teacher was smiling at her screen, asking softly, "Are you ready to shine today?" And across Canada, hearts were answering, not just in English, but in kindness.